This edition of Scott and Pop Talk Baseball. How you doing today, Dad?
I'm doing good, doing well. I'm finally coming out of the other end of that 2.5 weeks of flu bug I had. I feel a lot better now. I'm still coughing and sneezing, but I do that all year round anyway. I have chronic bronchitis, so
Right,
it's like I have a cold all year round, but I feel a lot better than I did last week.
right. Yeah, it's warmer here today or in this last few days. It was actually hot one day this week.
Well, 75 here.
Yeah.
The record for that date was in 1950. It was 80. I was 4 years old, so I don't remember.
Right.
But it was 80 degrees. Well, it was 75 here that day, and the low that night was 66, and that the last low was like 60 back in 1909. So it just all these temperatures just blew everything out of the water, and that was after a week ago we were 16.
Yeah.
So it's just now this week it's going to be in the 50s all week, so it's more like it's going to be normal. Except we got a ton of rain again last night. We're supposed to get rain again Wednesday.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and just glad you're feeling better, and I'm still working, so a lot, but we do have some things to talk about baseball wise. We got some movement, none of the big names yet. I should have kept it. I had a list of the bigger names in each position. There are still some very good players. And some, guys that can really add depth or starters to a team, especially in the DH area, or even like the Mets. I was looking, and Chapman is still out there. He played last year with Toronto.
See, he's another one. Boris is his agent. He's asking for the moon.
Right, and teams because the Mets are hurting for a third baseman. They have since David Wright has been gone. That's a spot that they desperately need, but I know they're not going to pay a ransom to get him. But as much as I would love to see him on there for a couple of years while they bring up some young players, the way it sounds, and I know I don't like to be a homer on here, but that's the team I follow. But they're rumored to talk to a couple of the lower tier DHs, maybe guy like Turner. I don't think Turner's asking for the whole heap because he knows he's at the end. I thought they were in on Rhys Hoskins, but that's one guy we could talk about. He went to the Brewers. I was shocked. I thought he was going to the Giants.
Well,
Giants have the money. I was like, whoa.
Remember last year, last week we were talking about the situation with the Diamond Sports Group going bankrupt, and Amazon going to court to try to buy them to save them from bankruptcy. Well, I dug a little deeper, found out one of the reasons these teams aren't spending money is because Bally Sports, which does a lot of gambling too, owns a lot of these local broadcasting channels. Now, one of the reasons the teams aren't spending money is they're afraid to spend money until they find out what they're going to get in their television revenue.
Right.
So until they find out what they're going to get in their local television revenue, they're afraid to spend money because they don't know what's going to happen.
Makes sense.
And so that's one of the reasons they're and they think the asking price is just ridiculous. So I do know that the Cubs inquired about the big four that are all represented by the same guy, Boros. And that was Chapman, Montgomery, Snell, and
Bellinger.
And Bellinger. Yeah, the four. They call them the big four. They inquired of their agent, who's Scott Boras. They wanted to know what they could do to get all four of them.
What's the package deal?
A package deal. That's what the Cubs asked what they could do to get all four of them. Now, I'm sure Boras is just going to hold out and wait for somebody to, fold up. But we'll just have to wait and see. But that was,
well, I mean, I keep hearing Texas is close to signing Montgomery, right? I think they want to get
I've
years.
heard that for a month.
Right. But it's probably still Boris telling him, hey, wait, be patient. But here we are. Today, we're, as recording, this will be released on the 29th. Guess what? Next Friday, the first team's pitchers and catchers report on the 9th. 2 teams. So I think it's Padres and Dodgers because they're playing overseas a week early.
Yeah, it'll be a week from Friday.
Right. So on the 9th, we're getting really close, boys and girls. This is going to be interesting. I think there was like 15, 20 names, like nameable names that were still out on the free agency. They're not the greatest. You got guys that can help your team. Like I said before, even the 4 you said, they're questionable, right? Because Snell has some questions about, different things. Is this last year? Is that him? Montgomery, the guy in the playoffs, is that him? Bellinger finally having a good year after his rookie year. There's a lot of question marks with these guys out here, but can they help their team? Sure, I think they can. I think there's a lot of upside to them on a lot of teams that really need the help. We've talked about it. Everybody could use one more pitcher. You can't tell me there's a team out there that looks at their starting rotation and go, yep, we're good. 1 to 5. Their closest might be the Yankees when they sign Stroman. And that depends on what other Rodon comes back healthy or not, or which Rodon comes back. So, everybody wants at least one more pitcher. So it's going to be very interesting. I think the preseason, summer is spring ball. It's going to be interesting to watch. I know you watch a lot of Grapefruit and Cactus League, at least for the news. I know you watch quite a bit of it on MLB.
Yeah, I watch.
If you're a baseball fan, MLB during spring training is awesome.
They go to each one of the spring training camps. And so I watch as much. I don't watch all of it, but I watch as much as I can. And then I'll watch some of the Grapefruit League games, spring training games, just to see the new players and see if I catch a name or, somebody that looks good. And then I try to check in on the Washington and Baltimore teams because that's my 2 favorite teams.
Right.
Of National American League. So
Washington presented new uniforms this week. So I did see that.
This is there's some things, I they had a report out of Baltimore this week. The general manager for Baltimore, he went off on some of the media because there were all kinds of media reports, not only in Baltimore, but in some of the national media, where the Baltimore Orioles were being ridiculed for not spending money this year on free agents.
What? You got to look at the future.
Or trading for Cease or Burns.
Right.
There was a lot of ridicule saying, what are you doing? You got plenty of this and plenty of that. If you don't do it now, you're never going to do it. And people were ridiculing you. Mm-hmm. And like he said, I mean, it's a good point. Who were the 3 teams that spent the most money last year? It was the Mets,
Yankees,
and San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego.
San Diego and the Yankees. The Mets, San Diego, and the Yankees, in that order, spent way more money than anybody else. How many of them made the playoffs?
Right.
0. So you're going to stand here and tell me that I'm supposed to go out and buy players, and then they come in here and fall on their face, and we don't make the playoffs? No, I don't think so. We're going to do it our way. And I thought that was a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, why should I trade away my top 3 prospects to get a pitcher that might only pitch half the year? Or last year he had a 495 earned run average, people. Come on.
Right.
Yeah, he's not the same guy he used to be. So be calm. The only thing I went back and checked that there's prospects. The Orioles prospect took me a little while, but I was checking them all. trying to see if they had any pitching, that they could call up. And that's the weakest position of all their stars is pitching.
Yeah.
They've got, oh my goodness, they've got outfielders, they've got infielders, they've got catchers. They've got an 18-year-old catcher from the Dominican Republic. He's going to turn 19 this year, and they are raving about this kid. They figure in about 4 or 5 years he might be in the majors, and then Rushman will be at first base. So, they've got plenty of talent. It's just their pitching is not. They don't have a lot of talent pitching wise, but I don't blame anybody for not throwing. You don't throw money away.
Right.
San Diego last week.
At the worst, you let Dylan Cease. You'll see what other teams have in spring training. You scout them, and if you still want to make an offer to get deeper because one of these guys look good, you can. But
Miami has 2 or 3 of their starting pitchers they're willing to trade. You can look at them.
Right. And they're very deep at pitching. That's one thing Miami does have. That Miami team is built to play in Miami.
They always draft pitching. They always draft pitching.
And when they make trades, it seems like they trade a pitcher for a player like they did with Araz, right? They went to Minnesota. Everybody just needs to relax a little bit. I want to see you start trade. This isn't the latest I've seen this many players still waiting.
I've seen it go way into spring training, and maybe there'd be 15, 20 people out there.
Right, and this is starting to seem to be the norm instead of the exception now.
Exactly.
And so we just need to just relate, because I think what people are trying to do now, they want to go to spring training, they want to see what they have. If they can fill within for cheaper, let's do it that way, or make a trade with somebody that we've been discussing internally, or do we? Because now with trade, these free agents are being overpaid for. It is no secret, because especially if you're a pitcher and you need pitching, and you got Boris is going to hold your team hostage until he gets what he wants, not what the guy's worth. So, and all of them want 8-year, all of them want 8-year deals and all this crap, which I don't understand for pitching. I don't like those deals for pitchers at all. Hitters and fielders I can understand, but pitchers, I don't like anything more than 4 years for me. But I don't have to pay it, so. But I am a fan, and I got to deal with it when my team does those dumb things. Any other moves? The Rhys Hoskins.
I've got plenty of moves, but I thought you might want to talk about a little bit about the 3 gentlemen that went into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we're going to end it on that since we started.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's end it on that. I got some stuff up, some squabbling, right. So we'll end it on that.
All right. Well, okay. 2 things on the Dodgers. The first thing is that they signed James Paxton to an $11 million 1-year deal. The Red Sox are really hot after him. He decided to go with the Dodgers because he thought he had a better chance of winning. Mm-hmm. The other thing about the Dodgers is Mookie. They caught a lot. The Dodgers have been catching a lot of heat about what they've done this spring, about trying to buy a championship and doing this and doing that and doing everything. So Mookie got asked about it in L.A. In L.A. on television, and he said, "Well, what do you want us to do? Try to lose? What do you? If you have, we're not the only team that has money. If we made, what do you want us to do? Not do anything and lose? I don't understand."
Well,
he said, we're trying to win. He said, we're trying to win. What do you want us to do?
I'm not mad at them at all. I just mad at how it went down and how you're able to defer it. But if you're allowed to do it within the rules, it's fine. Let me tell you, the Dodgers, this isn't the first time they've done this in the last few years. They won one World Series, and that was during the year of the short season, COVID year.
Yeah, they
And I
won.
mean,
LA won 2 championships, NBA and baseball during the COVID year when they were actually playing inside a bubble.
right,
I mean, it so
right. So
how
yeah, I'm not too impressed. These teams, I mean, I'm a Mets fan. Me and you used to talk about it all the time. It kind of started this channel, this show. I was not you could tell her I was not happy with the Scherzer Verlander signings. I was not happy. They overpaid for old guys. I love Verlander. Verlander grew up 20 minutes from us. He
yeah,
lived,
he lived in Goochland. He
yeah,
pitched at Goochland High School.
right. Played at Old Dominion. I I love Verlander. I mean, he's Mr. Upton.
Remember your nephew when Mason was little, that was his first favorite player
Yeah. And I mean,
when he was with the Tigers.
yeah, and that's I love his career, but I want to win championships, and I know, yes, he's got some in the tank. He showed it in the playoffs, but I know after the Scherzer deal, that's just way too much money on old guys, um, especially pitchers. So I mean, like you said, Baltimore's being smart with their money. The Dodgers, hey, they're spinning, but look what they're spending on. I mean, my God, Otani can hit. That's a lot of money if he's just going to DH.
Well,
But
if
he can pitch again.
like I said a couple of weeks ago, if they wind up losing, what have they done? We had 3 teams last year to do this, and they lost.
Right.
I mean, now granted, San Diego was starting to make a move at the end of the year, but I don't care how many moves you make. If you don't get there at the end, you still lost.
They ran out of games. They didn't even challenge, really. They were still 6 games out, 5 games out, like when at the end of the year. So
that was, but in Pittsburgh, they signed Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, I saw that. That was surprising to me too, because that was actually a pretty big contract for Pittsburgh for a guy
in 2 years.
Yeah, for a guy that's at the end of his career.
Right.
That doesn't make that doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't. You make that signing to trade him later for bullpen. I don't know. Because they're not going to, unless they feel like they built on what they did last year. They fell apart after April. So they were Pittsburgh after April.
Well,
so that signing didn't make much sense to me.
Kind of on a sad note, a little bit. Ryan Sandberg came out this week. Ryan Sandberg got cancer. He battled it one time and beat it, and now he's got it in a different place. So
I didn't know that.
He has cancer. The Milwaukee Brewers signed Rhys Hoskins 2 years, $34 million. They decided to keep Burns, signed Hoskins. They're going for it. They want to go for the Central title.
Yeah, so Hoskins is a disaster at first base. He's not very good, but he can play it. But DH,
and he can hit. And I mean, let's face it, in that division, it's wide open.
Their mascots could be going down that slide quite a bit.
And I mean, you look at that division. The Cardinals finished last.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Milwaukee, the Cubs, Cincinnati. Those 3 teams. Cincinnati's going to be improved this year, and I think the Cubs are going to be the Cubs. They're always competitive, and Milwaukee, they win the division most every year. I mean, but they still want to win. Milwaukee wants to win, so they signed Hoskins.
And you got to remember, Milwaukee's got a new coach.
Yeah, so because
their coach is in Chicago.
Their manager went to the Cubs.
Right.
And the Angels signed Matt Moore, 1 year, $9 million.
And that's not nothing to just glance over. Now, look, I know we always want to make fun of the Angels, right? People want to say they're already out of it. They might not have made moves for starting pitching, but they have really bolstered their bullpen in this offseason. If you look, that's not their first bullpen signing. So I got to give them some credit. We don't know who's talking to what starting pitchers that are still out there. But when it comes to bullpen, they've done a pretty good job in the offseason.
Well, remember what I said about the Cubs checking with Boris to ask about the 4 guys?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Angels have checked with Boris to ask about 3 guys. Bellinger, Montgomery, and Snell.
Right.
So they might, who knows, they might go ahead and spend some money. They don't have to pay Ohtani.
No.
Um,
And they tried. They tried to pay Ohtani.
Yeah, they tried.
They were in on it.
They offered him the $700 million.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Rangers signed David Robertson, who used to be a relief pitcher for the Yankees, the Mets, and a few other teams.
Mm-hmm.
They signed him to one year, and it was 11 to 12 million.
He actually closed a lot of games for the Mets last year.
And I saw the story where DeGrom has said that he's doing well in his rehab, and he's hoping he can start throwing some this spring. That'll last about a week, and then he'll be hurting. Now,
yeah, he just needs to retire. I feel that guy went from the tops, the next, the right hand, whatever, the next Sandy Koufax, and he might be because it's a short-lived career. But he went from, throwing 1 to no hitters every other start for 8 to 9 innings to just being done overnight. And it all coincided with the sticky stuff. So anybody want to have that discussion, we can.
Yeah. And we were talking about DHs and that. And a journeyman, this guy, he moves every time the Rents do. Jock Peterson.
Yeah.
He signed a 1 year, $9.5 million with Arizona. So
okay, he was on the list. I didn't know he signed, but that's
yeah. He signed with the Diamondbacks. They were looking for a DH, and he signed with the Diamondbacks. Yeah, and
that makes him a little lefty heavy,
right?
But, yeah.
And of course, wearing his pearls.
I was going to say
he was with the Braves the year they won the championship.
Well, I was going to say, with a team that really is not that flashy, maybe even a little boring, you might say, he might liven that place up a little bit, bring a little swag to a team. Because they did, the longtime old man third baseman, he's still out there as a free agent. I guess he didn't retire. What's his face? He used to be with the Rays. Ray, I'm seeing him. I can't think of it. It starts with an L last name. I can't think of it. Longoria. Yes, thank you. Whew. Sorry about that. Had a brain fart.
I gotta send you some of that stuff my wife gave me.
Yeah, Longoria. He's still out there, so that's a very young team, and so I don't know if Jock Peterson is the guy that you want as your veteran presence, but
well, I mean, yeah, but there's certain things about the way he plays the game. The kids will learn. I mean,
well, their first baseman, Christensen, he's a multi-time Gold Glover and slugger. That dude is the real deal too, and he's a veteran. So, and he looks like a no-nonsense guy.
And they might have the best outfield in the game as far as defense.
It's going to hard to get it in between somewhere out there. We said that last year. They could all run. They all need a cutoff man to the cutoff man, but they can run them down.
Well, the Baltimore Orioles signed this guy nobody's probably ever heard of, but he's a youngster. He's DL Hall.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old. He's left-handed. They signed him.
He was already with the team.
Hmm?
He was it somebody they let go? Because DL Hall came up with the Orioles.
He was kind of in limbo.
Okay.
The Orioles had dropped him. He went down to the minor leagues for his last time. You know how you can only go back down for your last time?
Because he was at one time he was a top prospect.
Right, but they hadn't made up their mind on him.
Okay.
That last year he went down for the last time, so they hadn't made up their mind on him. So, but they decided to sign him because now what they want to do, he's been a reliever mainly. They want to bring him. They want to see if he can start.
Right.
They want to see if he can start for him.
That was a goal for him. I
and
know.
If they can, well, hey, Leo, if he can start for him, then they saved all those people they were going to trade.
Right.
For Dylan Cease. So who knows? The Cubs.
I know one thing. If you're in AAA, you don't want to play Tidewater.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Or Norfolk or whatever they're called now, Norfolk Tides. Sorry, the Tidewaters when I was a little kid. I'm sorry, they're now Norfolk.
They used to be the Norfolk. They were Norfolk Tides. Then they were the Tidewater Tides. Then they were the Norfolk Tides.
Now they're Norfolk Tides.
Then they were the Hampton Hurricanes or whatever the heck it was. Then they were back to being Norfolk again. Now I don't know what they are.
They're Norfolk Tides. It's Orioles AAA team.
All right, the Cubs signed Hector Neris, relief pitcher, for 1 year for $9 million. And then finally I have the Mets. Yesterday they signed Adam Ottavino to a 1 year, $4.5 million contract.
Which was another guy they had that could have been. They had to re-sign. They let him walk because he was due. They could have offered him something, but he's not that good.
Now here's where a guy made a mistake. Cost him $2 million. They offered him $6.5 million last year to come back this year for a 1 year contract. He said, I want to try being a free agent. They said, fine. So he went on the free agent market. Nobody wants him. So now he took $4.5 million to come back for a year.
Right. He
could have had 6.5.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys don't look. My grandmother used to say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Right. I have no idea what that means. When I was a kid, I used to go, why would anybody want to look in a horse's mouth for a gift? I have never understood that, but that's what she used to say. And since she used to say it, I didn't argue with her because I got smacked. But anyway, she said, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Sometimes you better take what you can get because, he was over betting on himself. And I mean, he's still, $4.5 million ain't nothing to sneeze at.
Right.
But but still he could have had $2 more million. And that's mainly about all I have. I did see where some people, about 5 or 6 different teams, but I don't want to waste a lot of time on, signed people to minor league contracts.
Right.
And so I'm not going to bring all that up unless it's some name I know.
Right.
But that's all I have.
That Ottavino, that was a guy. They could have gave him an offer to keep him. They decided, of course they didn't because it was I think it was the offer sheet was like 24 million or something. But so yeah, they let him walk into free agent. Like you said, they offered him one before that and he turned it down. But yeah, he's a bullpen guy and he actually is not bad. So I'm glad
he comes in the middle innings a lot.
So, I mean, that adds more depth to the Mets rotation. That's awesome.
Now, aren't they getting their closer back this year?
Yep. And so we'll see. I don't know who is going to be the 8th inning. That's going to be spring training. But they said the general manager said they got money for one more guy to add, like to DH. But they are looking for more arms as well. So I don't know how much you're going to spend or whatever. But that's it. And like I said, that's my team. So I follow them on the socials, SNY Mets, a couple of different podcasts. So, but anyway, let's get into the Hall of Fame. Who the 3 guys that are joining Jim Leyland, and let's talk about a couple of people that got shortchanged a little bit. So the 3 are Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, and Joe Mauer. Adrian Beltre with 95.1%. That shocks me. I knew he was going to be number 1, but I didn't know 95.1. Yeah,
I knew he was going to be number 1, and I had a funny feeling he might be the only one because they've done that before.
I did too.
But because I knew some people held it against Todd Helton because he played with the Colorado Rockies. And, I mean, that's one of those deals where they try to hold it against a guy. And they'd held it against him for a few years, but he got in. But I knew Beltre was probably going to be number 1. But to get 95%, I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, so Todd Helton got 79.7
and that's
and
okay.
and Maurer got 76.1.
He just
There,
made
made it. Um,
one of the
again,
problems.
I'm
Now, when I was
happy. I
watching
am so
MLB,
happy. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
one of the problems I had with MLB, not problems, but I mean, I was watching when there was three guys on there talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Mauer was, well, he spent as much time at first base as he did as a catcher. Oh, yeah, he was one of the best catchers that ever played, but he wasn't one of the best first basemen that ever played.
Not even close.
And I said, yeah, that's true to a point. When you're playing first, no, his first baseman, the way he played first base, he wasn't as good defensively as some of the greatest first basemen ever played.
He didn't hit either as well.
But still, when you're trying to, to me,
that was my issue. That was my issue.
Well, see, the other thing is, though, here's a guy that was great at one position and good at another one. A lot of people can't play.
People were like putting a caveat in there. He got concussions playing catcher because he got ran into.
That's why he went to first.
I agree 100%. But you have to look at his whole career. You know, he moved positions, and when he was a catcher, he was a great. But at first base, he was just a guy. He was just, because the two positions are so different. At catcher, nobody's expecting you to bat over 300. Guess what he did? You know, he won't great at power. I mean, I pulled up the numbers because I knew we were going to be talking about these players. So he had over 2,000 hits, right? He only had 2,100 hits. How many years did he play? Let's see. I thought it said it right at the top, but it doesn't say. I guess I can look.
It should have his career number.
15 years. So he only got 2,100 hits, 143 home runs, and a batting average lifetime of 306.
Well, 306, anything over 300 for lifetime ain't bad.
Right. So at catcher, you don't need your catcher to be a great home run hitter, right? First base is where he moved to first base. That's where I don't want to. Not all your first basemen are prototypical, right?
Like John Olerud. John Olerud was more of a line drive hitter.
Right. But he only had 2,000 hits. He only had 923 RBI. He only, the 306 batting average is what got him in, and his greatness behind the plate, that memory. And I agree. I think he is a Hall of Famer. I was shocked he got in on the first one.
Well, here again. This is one of those things where you can argue either way, and you can see I can see the other person's point. I can see the point that he wasn't as good a first baseman as like Gil Hodges or somebody like that, but Tony Perez. But he was not only a good hitting catcher, that guy for defense, throwing, and how he handled the pitching staff was outstanding.
Yeah. And I mean, at defense at first base, he was fine. He just, at first base, I'm trying to see if he even had an all-star appearance at first, and it doesn't really break it down like that on this website. He only had 6 all-star appearances. He was a 3-time Gold Glove, an MVP, a 5-time Silver Slugger, a 6-time All-Star, and a 3-time batting title. So having 3 batting titles and playing catcher, not bad.
No, that ain't too shabby.
Right, and I'm not trying to I'm being a little bit of devil's advocate here. I am happy he's in. I think he's deserving of it. He's a great representative for the sport. I'm not comparing him to Harold Baines because he actually did get voted in by the people who are supposed to vote him in. The one part I'm glad about, this looks good for Buster Posey, who ended his career
Buster Posey. Early. You keep Buster Posey out of the Hall of Fame, I'm coming after you. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Right. So that's where I'm at. And then talking about Todd Helton, Dad. So his career, He played 17 years, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he had 2,500 hits, 369 home runs. Um, that's where I'm talking about. But you could say all you want to about Colorado. He didn't choose where he played. That's where he was playing. um, you
Yeah, but the
know,
other thing is too,
he had
when they brought this up
1,400
on MLB,
RBIs,
they pulled up his batting average away on his
316.
away games was almost as high as his home game.
But his batting average is 316. So unless you're hitting every ball out of the ballpark, because they always tell me that Colorado is a tough place to defend. To me, a smaller ballpark are easier places to defend. I know the ball carries well there, blah, blah,
No,
blah.
well, that's wrong because the outfield in Colorado is one of the largest in the league.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh
The
yeah,
ball
the outfield
carries.
is huge. I mean, the ball just carries because it's lighter air, but the outfield is huge.
Right.
And but I mean, that's Todd Helton to me. I don't care if they play in Colorado. You can't if you're going to hold that against a guy, then you got to hold. You know, what other sport are you going to? Oh, he played. Oh, he played on a team. Oh, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example. Ernie Banks made the Hall of Fame because Ernie Banks was one of the best shortstop to ever play the game. But his batting average and his hit, everything would have been a whole lot better if he'd have played on a better team when he had protection.
Right.
He played on a team where he was the only guy that could hit.
Well, I like to compare it to right now this great thing, quarterbacks in NFL that play in certain offenses. They're not great quarterbacks. They just do what they're supposed to do, like Brock Purdy. You know, yeah, Brock Purdy had a horrible game last week, but they won.
And he had the last drive that took him down to win.
Right. And I mean, he's not
And he
flashy
lost
or
in
nothing.
Cleveland, and he took him on the last drive, brought him down there, and the field goal kicker missed the field goal.
Right. So I'm just saying that's what we compare things to is we like to compare. And here is I'm not talking about war. You won't hear me talk about war other than I hate the term. So Adrian Beltre, 21 years, so he has a little longevity on his side. He's a 3,000 hit guy, 477 home runs, and he had a 286 batting average playing at third base. So, you know, he has four Silver Sluggers, 5 Gold Gloves, and 2-time Platinum Glove. Four-time All-Star, which I think he's kind of got screwed in those terms just because third base is so deep.
I think there's only one 3,000 hit player that's not in the Hall of Fame.
Pete Rose.
Yes.
Right.
As far as I know, he's the only. If you get 3,000 hits, you're in the Hall of Fame.
Ichiro's not in yet.
Well, that's next year.
Yeah. So, I mean, but yeah, that's eligible. He's the only one. And I mean, 477 home runs. And to me, batting 286, I don't care what era you're in, 286, playing third base, getting that many hits and that much batting average. And his own base.
His batting average suffered the last 2 or 3 years because that's when he was in a decline.
But 286 is still good.
Look, he had 3,000 hits. That's all I had to hear.
339 on base percentage, 339 for a guy that batted, in the middle of the lineup. I mean, here's another stat for you: 121 stolen bases. There you go. Very well-rounded career for Adrian Beltre.
And a great defensive player.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And just, I mean, and here this year though for the Hall of Fame, it's not a flashy Hall of Fame. There's no guys that are going to go, oh, that's the greatest that ever played. No, these are guys that played the game hard. They played it right.
In that group.
No. Next year we have Ichiro. Everybody, that's going to be.
He and CC Sabathia.
Yeah. That's going to be a big one. This year is just guys that played the game hard, guys that played it well, and guys that are deserving to be in the Hall. That's the way I look at it. I want to go to the guy the fourth guy on the list. Me and you talked about him last week. Billy Wagner, 73.8%. Poor fella. I think was this his last one?
No.
Okay.
No,
and
but
then,
no. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Because here again, everybody's going, oh, well, he missed it by 1.5%. He'll make that easy next year. Maybe. But maybe somebody's going to take their vote away from him and give him to somebody else.
Well, it
because
depends
next
on who's
year,
in there.
you got Ichiro. You got CC Sabathia. You got Kinsler. You got Dustin Pedroia, Curtis Granderson, Troy Tulowitzki, Ben Zobrist, Hanley Ramirez. Maybe some of these guys will only get 10 votes. But somebody that voted for Wagner this year might vote for Hanley Ramirez next year.
Right. I don't know if Hanley's going to get it because he's going to be caught up in the.
Who's that?
Hanley Ramirez and the.
Well, no, I don't. I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying somebody like that could get votes that Wagner got this year.
Well, here's one that was in the steroid era. He got 63.9%, and that was Gary Sheffield.
Yeah, because he never admitted to doing it.
I mean, and Andrew Jones is 61.6. Andrew Jones is one of those guys. That's a tough one.
Well, here again, they hold it against him. The same thing they hold against Dale Murphy. They were the top players at their positions for a decade, and then after that, they're so they only had 10 years. I've heard this. It was only 10 years. 10 years is a decade.
Right.
But Andrew Jones, Chipper Jones said Andrew Jones for 10 years was the best center fielder in the game. No question. But then he put on weight and everything else and it just dropped off. So that's going to hurt him. Same thing that happened to Dale Murphy. I think Dale Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame.
I do too. I even told him that when I shook his hand, got his autograph. And my man, David Wright, hanging on by toenails, 6.2%.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I
Corey
saw
Warner, 7.3.
Yeah, I saw him he was interviewed on MLB, and he was talking about how, and they said it was a shame, he came up with that bad back. And
he gets another 5 years. He's in. Maybe not. And then the guys
if he could have played a few more years, he'd have made it. Because he was the best third baseman in the game when he was playing.
Man, that game we got to see. We sat at third base and saw him and what's his face in Washington before his shoulder. No, we saw before he had to go to first base because of his shoulder.
Oh, Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Zimmerman played third, and they were
diving plays and throwing from behind the bag, both of them. It was awesome. So Batista is out. Jose Batista, Joey Bats, Victor Martinez, which is a little surprising to me. I thought Victor Martinez, his longevity, I don't have his numbers, but I just always remember him being just as good as some of those guys I'm seeing at the top. Bartolo Colon, who should be in the Hall of Fame, not a plaque, but his own little section just for being such a guy in baseball.
He is 50-some years old. He pitched in the major leagues over 20 years.
He's pitching right now.
In Mexico. He's in 50.
He's pitching in the Middle East in that league at in Dubai or whatever.
Yeah, he pitched last year in Mexico.
Yeah, David Ortiz did a home run last week.
He went to Dubai and he's over there pitching.
Matt Holliday only got 1%, which I was a little disappointed in that one too. Adrian Gonzalez, that was a guy that for like 3 or 4 years was the guy, and then he was another one. Just when he fell off, he fell off. He went to the Mets and just bottomed out. Brandon Phillips out. Jose Reyes had 0 votes, not a vote. Jose Reyes, one of the fastest men I've ever seen on a baseball field.
But he had, from the neck down, he was a great player. But from the head up, neck up, him running bases, oh my goodness.
And James Shields, who was always, when he was at his top, he was in the Cy Young talk every year, got 0 votes. But he's another one that wasn't consistent. But, you know, when it comes to these ballots and stuff, it's very subjective. The vote goes to writers. So if you don't treat the writers well, you're going to have a tough time. So, you know, who was the one I saw arguing? I forget. I saw last week a video of a guy arguing with them, and you know, if they don't like you, just ask Jeff Kent, leading second baseman in home runs, and he's
there's a lot of, and I could understand it. There's a lot of people in the Philadelphia area that were upset about Chase Utley and.
Well, see, that's what I was going to go back to. So I wanted to touch on this because of my friends. Chase Utley, 28.8%. So we were talking.
In that's Rollins almost, too, isn't it?
Right. So wait, I just want to get this out. So in the public one, that was about where he was at. In the private ones, he never moved. So that we were sitting there talking. How many of the private ones are these old fuddy-duddies that only vote for, I'm not going to give you a vote, I'm not going to vote but for 2 people. You know what I'm saying? They throw away their votes. I wish all of them wait till afterwards and all of them are displayed so we can see. You want to be a writer and you want to vote for the Hall of Fame, all of them should be public, and I want to see who you voted for. We're not voting for a president here. We're voting for players into the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I want to see who the dumb person was that didn't vote for Babe Ruth. That's what I want to see. You know what I mean, Adrian Beltre's far from Babe Ruth, but how did Mariano Rivera, I'm still boggled that he got 100%. A relief pitcher is the only guy to ever get 100%. That's still boggles.
Pitch 1 inning a game.
Yeah. And so Jimmy Rollins got 14.8. But you think those guys were going to move up. And it's going to be tough for them. Those middle infielders, you know, especially if you don't, it's all about numbers right now, that dumbass war.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't want to talk about highlights or what you meant to a team where you're the star of the stars. Because that's the way I look at it. I want my Hall of Fame. I do like a smallish Hall of Fame, and I want you to be the All-Stars All-Star. And I think we've kind of slipped from that these last few just to get people into the Hall. You know, so we'll see. I don't see
the game's changed.
I don't see
the
too
game
many.
Has changed. You can't.
Oh yeah.
The game has changed so much in the last 15, 20 years that it's hard to use the same criteria that they used back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s
with today's
ball players, because the game has changed so much.
I don't think we'll see another 3,000 hitter.
No.
Even with the guys hitting home runs like they are, it's going to be tough.
You might see a 3,000 walker.
Yeah. On-base percentages might be high.
Well, see, they don't go by the batting averages anymore.
On-base percentage.
They go by on-base percentage. They go by how much time you're on base.
Runs scored, yeah.
And it's okay, fine. But to me, if you're a hitter, you have a batting average.
Right. Well, for pitchers, they use batting average against. They do use that criteria. Anything you want to add to? We've had a lot packed in. Now, man, we're moving on to an hour rather quickly here.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just we had a good day. I mean, I think we actually had something to talk about that was,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing about this pay-per-view stuff that we talked about. The NFL is definitely going to have at least one more playoff game on pay-per-view next year. They announced that. And this has nothing to do with sports. It's all just about entertainment. But the WWE has announced that Monday Night Raw, or whatever it's called, is going to go to Netflix starting in January 25.
All the catalog. The 100% of their catalogs going on Netflix.
So they're all going to Netflix. So they're going for that's pay-per-view.
And if you understand what their catalog is, you don't understand what their catalog is, that means every WWE that's ever been televised, WWF, and all the companies they bought their catalogs to. So you have like Texas South, all these crazy companies that Vince McMahon has bought. They have all their catalogs as well. It's a fun looking.
I might be wrong, but I understand it was like $1 billion they were offered, so they took it.
It's $500 million a year.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just bringing that up because it's another sign that that's where we're headed.
Yeah. So that one, because WWE is kind of.
Well, it's not a sport.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see, and it's going to have. I don't know.
I mean, anybody that thinks that's real, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you.
Well, outcomes are predetermined. You can't fake gravity. So all the moves are scripted and everything, but they take hard bumps. They're athletes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they get hurt. But I mean,
it's entertainment, 100% entertainment.
I mean, if you're laying on the mat and I jump off the top rope and drop an elbow on your throat, I'm not going to win the match. I'm going to go to your funeral.
But anyway, that when I saw that, I thought the same thing. It kind of caught everybody off guard because TBS and TNT was really hardcore talking to them about it. But Netflix was always in the mix. But I just don't know how many new subscribers are going to come over because Netflix is kind of going up. It's not inexpensive when you start adding up a year.
Well, the NFL is bragging about how much money they made off of Peacock.
Yeah, and lost viewers. Lost viewers for a game, but made more money. And that's all they don't care about. If they could get the money up front, that's all they worry about. But anyway, we're going to end it on that. I do want to thank people that did leave comments in the last week with some very, very nice comments to us both, Dad. I don't know if you had a chance to see them.
I saw there was 3 of them. I think the last time I looked, there was 3 of them.
Yeah, so I do appreciate those, and keep them coming. Another 2 weeks, and we'll have 2 teams in spring training, and 3 weeks, all of them will be in spring training. At least pitchers and catchers. So very excited. Moves starting to happen, and we got the Hall of Fame behind us. So that's one thing that is fun to talk about, but it has nothing to do with the game that's going on now. So until next time, like, share, tell a friend, and we'll see ya.